Hunters. There we go. Cool. All right. Let me get the chat up here so I can read comments. Alex is going to be going over it. Ads coming through. That's good. No hiccups anymore, Alex. We're starting the show off normally now.
I know we've had to hire some people in that know what they're doing, and everything goes much smoother nowadays.
I just don't even know what I'm doing, and here we
Yeah.
are in our second month doing this, so wild times. How we doing, everybody? Check into the stream. We're joined here by three amazing guests. All right, we're going to be talking today specifically about America's interest within Ukraine. But let's go down the line and introduce ourselves here for the stream one by one.
Hello, my name is Olena Vostrova, and I am a Ukrainian vlogger. I'm living in Kyiv now, but actually I'm from Irpin, and maybe you know that Irpin is near Bucha, and I'm sure that you've heard about this town, and I can say that my town, Irpin, suffered even more than Bucha. So I saw those horrible things in my town, and I can share with you a lot of things. But not about this. Now I want to tell that me and Bogdan are independent media persons, and we launched our YouTube channel. It is called BB Ukraine Analytics, and we invite you to join us because there we analyze the events and the current situations of the Russian-Ukraine war, and also we give the insider information about political situation in Ukraine. So let us be your Ukrainian insiders. We can tell you about the political situation and what's going on here in Ukraine. And so let's Bogdan proceed and continue.
So my name is Bogdan Butkevich. I'm a Ukrainian journalist and blogger also. I am the author of 2 Ukrainian YouTube channels. I think it's a little bit popular here. But I want to add to Olena's word. I think it's a very big problem for Ukraine that many years we got no any real channel to tell about Ukraine, what Ukraine thinks about Ukraine, because everybody can tell something about Ukraine. Russians, okay, Americans, British, Europeans, but I think it's a very big problem that Ukrainians can have no any channels, have no any okay, so we want to make some channel and to tell you about the Ukraine, what Ukrainians think about Ukraine, about the inner situation, about the foreign affairs, about everything here, about the war. Because if we want the Americans to understand why you need to support us, so we need to explain you what's going on here. Something like that. Thank you very much.
My name is Operator Starsky, also known as Captain Andrew Kulish, National Guard of Ukraine. You probably know me, I guess. And also, I want to say several words about my friends that I brought here today. Bogdan is also a musician. He plays in the beautiful band called Yukis. I talked a lot about this band.
You got to plug us. You have to show, because I have to show them. I have to show them the music. They love music.
Yeah, Yukis is basically like a call sign for Ukrainian people. And also they're both are journalists. Bogdan works at Kyiv Radio and Censornet and Kyiv Radio Television, as well as Olena. And also, basically everything I know about political situation in Ukraine, things that I can discuss with you guys comes a lot from their analysis, because in Ukraine, we know we're a democratic country and we don't blindly follow leaders. In Ukraine, it's a good habit to discuss, have different arguments and discussions about things that happen. It's a normal thing in a democratic country. That's why I personally receive a lot of information from Bogdan and Olena regarding what happens inside of my country. Also, they're representative of like internal Ukrainian informational bubble. I'm representative of external Ukrainian informational bubble. Usually those bubbles don't collapse, don't intersect, somehow happens. For example, there's almost 400,000 subscribers on my channel, but in Ukraine, I'm almost like unknown.
That's not true.
Not true. He's
Almost,
recognized
almost.
everywhere.
Almost. Yeah. So keyboard
being
is
humble.
almost. And this is a great opportunity for this internal Ukrainian informational bubble to grow and meet people who want to know more about Ukraine and our situation. And with that, I'm passing this beautiful microphone to my bro Alex from the UK.
From the UK.
Thank you, Starsky. Well, I think it's good though, Andrew, isn't it, to actually have Ukrainian nationals represented entirely as our guests rather than a load of international people, like you say, commenting about what Ukraine thinks.
Exactly. It's the opportunity that we've been looking for to like hear Ukrainian voices, and it's hard to find. From me being from like Minnesota, I know Starsky, I know Rick the Ukrainian, I know a few, but I'm broadening who my awareness is, and you guys can find BBUA_analytics, which is their YouTube channel username. It's in the title of the video, and it's also in the description. So that's like two places that you can like just literally click the hyperlink and then subscribe to their YouTube channel. All right, I already looked at it. There's like tons of content on there already, analytics and everything, and you guys are gonna really enjoy it because you like in-depth conversations. A couple things before we get started for the day. One, our NAFO fundraiser for our medical truck, excuse me, not the medical truck, that was last time. The 4x4 electronic warfare van, all right, the link is in the description. We're like almost halfway there, you guys, with that fundraiser, so let's get that going. If you guys want to see me back in Ukraine, my ticket back in here is vehicles, drones, and medical supplies, and if I don't have that, then I'm not going to come here because there's tons of other people here doing this, and that is my ticket in. Also, really quick before we get into it, me and Alex have something to show. Alex is already. Oh, I didn't even see. He's already eating. Oh my god!
I'm hungry.
I didn't even see it happen. But I got to show the stream quick. I didn't even know he grabbed it. All right, this is the Ukrainian hot dog. All right, it was grabbed this morning. Alex is over there. He's not fucking around. But I told you guys. It's a very interesting thing, right? It goes in there, and the bottom holds it together. There's no other end. See what I mean? Okay? And this is what the Ukrainian hot dog is, and it's amazing. Okay? It's filled with mayo, mustard, and ketchup. Alex already started, all right? Good, yum breakfast. So I'm going to have this as well. And obviously, as you guys know, Operator Starsky works for Ukrainian military, so anytime he's got a phone call, he's got to get up and walk off, and that's just A-okay. So, the topic of today is American interest in Ukraine. Why don't I just, what do you guys think what is important for Americans to understand about Ukraine, one by one?
I think maybe that the most important thing is what Americans can understand about Ukraine is that Ukraine is fighting for its independence. Ukraine is fighting for European values, and Ukraine is fighting to be in the house of Euro-Atlantic space. We want to be a part of your values because we now are defending these values. The values of human life, the values of European lifestyle, and the values of the law and the right and human rights. And what we are fighting against is the dictatorship and maybe, this cruel genocide, because what Russia is doing in Ukraine is typical genocide. And now maybe you read the news and you see that now UN is investigating all the crimes and have the evidences that Russians are doing here, what they are doing, they are killing the Ukrainians. And the purpose of Putin is not only to grab the territory and annex it, the Ukrainian territory, but also to chase the Ukrainians from their land, to chase us and to kill us because we're not loyal to this regime. We don't want to live according to their rules. We want to be a democratic country, and that's why we are fighting for democracy And also, I want to say that we are waging 3 wars in Ukraine, actually. The first war is for our identity. We want to be Ukrainians, we don't want to be Russians. And Ukrainians and Russians are totally different people and totally different mentality. The second war is the war against Russian occupiers. We are chasing Russian occupiers from our land. And maybe the third war is our inner war, and that's the war against corruption. And now we are developing our anti-corruption institutions, and really, that's really maybe one of the hardest war, because maybe you heard that Ukraine is a corrupted country. Actually, yes, but we are fighting against corruption, and I don't know the countries that are not corrupted. I think that all countries are corrupted in this or that, to this that extent. But Ukrainians are fighting against corruption, and now we are developing our institutions. And what else? I think that maybe what you should understand, that we have the same values. We are just people like you. We want to be free, we want to be independent, and we want to live according to human rights, and we want to, we want to join this Euro-Atlantic space. And maybe Bogdan will add something, and then I will continue. But I think that that's the most.
Yeah, I would like to just add several things. Yesterday I received this beautiful commentary saying that actually America doesn't need Ukraine because Ukraine is a corrupted country and all the weapons that we receive will end up being in the hands of corrupted gangs and stuff. According to the index of the World Bank, in the rating of corruption, Russia is 20 or 30 positions higher than Ukraine, actually.
Nearly black, and look at the colors. It's when you look at the map of the colors of corruption, it's nearly black over where Russia is, because the redder it gets, the more corrupt.
Russia.
Really quick, so I want to get Starsky, and then we'll hear. The question is, or rather, I'm trying to ask your guys' individual statements of what is America's interest in Ukraine.
Thank you very much. So I will speak like a man with a naked knee. About the geostrategic things. Let's try to think like American, for example, American president, or for example, Anthony Blinken, something like this. American understand that their main enemy is China, and it's a very big problem because China it's a country that could try to beat America in the world view. Not only, for example, economics questions or war questions. And we understand that Americans' interest is to beat China, to make the situation that China could not be a leader in the in all things. But we understand one more thing, that American administration, American business, American senators, congressmen, they are afraid of collapse of Russia. Why? Because the first main thing it's a nuclear weapon. Because every American administration afraid. Russia have, if I'm not mistaken, 5,000 rocket missiles with a nuclear weapon. So if Russia will collapse, what will be the situation with nuclear weapon? In what hand this nuclear weapon will be? For example, the next question of Biden and Blinken, they can ask, so Russia don't exist, Moscow blown. So with whom we will speak? How we need to make diplomacy? With whom? Who it will be? It's a very big problem. We remember in Ukraine, very interesting thing. When the president George Bush, the first George Bush, father George Bush, came in 1991 to Kyiv, and it was only 2 weeks before we announced independent country. And he asks here in Ukraine, he said, guys, you don't need to be independent. Let's make the Soviet Union. It's okay. You want some freedoms in the Soviet Union. But you don't need to be independent. We remember very good the situation. If we're talking about the situation now, so I think that the main thing, in my humble opinion, that Americans must understand. You don't need to afraid the collapse of Russia. Why? I understand that, for example, Americans think, okay, Russia will collapse and China will get everything there, and so we have a very, very big China with a 5,000 nuclear weapon. The biggest problem is that China will get the Russia in all situations. I understand that it sounds some terrifying, but it's true. Now Russia can, they can make the war against Ukraine only because China is helping there. China they say, oh no, we got no any interest in Russia. We don't need, but it's it's lie. If China don't support Russia, so Russia cannot have any efforts to make this war in such a long time. So I think you must understand that if Russia will collapse, but collapse, how to explain to you. We need to make Russia collapse, that it not became a backdoor of China if, for example, China will have the war with USA. Я нормально пояснил? And maybe the most useful thing I think American need to understand about our war. Russia, it's a country that cannot be the part of Western, Western world. I think it's the most big mistake that made America and Europe in 1991, when America's politicians, European politicians, they believed that Russia could be something like Western, like West. No, that's no Western country. No, it's a very big problem that, for example, Russia, it's a very big historical mistake in Eurasia. Yeah, I understand that China, it's a east. Okay, okay, and America is the west, but Russia, it's a mistake. And we need to, to solve this mistake. Yeah, and maybe it's a very interesting fact for you that Russia, like empire, they consist after the very big epidemic of plague. Really, when okay, it's very hard to explain. Okay.
I want to add that Russia consists of many nationalities, actually, and we see that all these nationalities are gathered in this empire, and Russia tries to destroy their identities, and that's maybe the big problems. If these nationalities will identify themselves as, as pure nationalities, for example, Buryаты, then Chukchi, then what? Kazakh, many nationalities they have. If they return to themselves their identities, there will be many countries, and maybe they will then become a part of Asia, or some of them can become a part of Euro-Atlantic space. We don't know, but we don't have to be afraid of their, being apart. And one more thing that is very important is that here we have this global resistance, right? Global resistance. We have democratic societies versus dictatorship societies. And this is the China and Russia, they are dictatorship societies. They are authorized dictatorships. And European countries, these are democracies. So, and this is the global war between democracy and dictatorship. So, and we are a part of democracy. And that's the interests that maybe you Americans can have, that we fight for your values. We fight for the right of law, not the right of force, because Russia tries to enforce the right of force on all the countries, because they want to show that force, strength is the main power in this world that can, be above everything. But that's not true. We have the rights, human rights, and human rights have to be above everything, but not the right of force that Russia tries to force. And that's what we are fighting against. If Russia will win, then the world order that Americans support will be destroyed. So Russia will go on, and that's only the first war then. Ukraine is only the beginning. If you won't stop Putin here in Ukraine, the war will go further and further, because Putin will understand that if he has this nuclear weapon, he can do everything, and he can, grab and annex all the other countries, because there will be no resistance. So we have to stop it here right now.
One more thing. I understand Americans can think something like this. Okay, 2 times in history, American soldiers must have to solve European problems, and it's not true. Yeah, in World War One, World War Two, when American soldiers came to Europe and helped to solve some European problems, and maybe some American think, okay, it's not our turn. What's going on in Europe? It's European problem. Why we must, for example, die or for example, give our money, our weapon to European? It's a very big problem that now you can solve this problem only with money. And if Russia will grab Ukraine, I guarantee to you that you will have one more world war and American soldiers must again die in Europe. It's a very big problem. But maybe it's sounds not so good, but I think it's more comfortable to America to give some money and not to die in one more war. I think something like this. Thanks.
And one more thing I want to add, that Russia have already started a hybrid war against Poland. And you can see how from the borders of Belarus, actually Russian Putin sends this wave of migrants. And this is a part of, creating these migrants waves to Europe and creating the hunger, this famine, world famine, blocking our corridors with grain. So that's the part of a hybrid war. So it has already started.
Operator Starsky?
Yeah, just briefly regarding the collapse of Russia. Well, first of all, when you look at the map and you see this biggest country in the world, and then you ask yourself, how the hell did they become so big? It's not that Buryats and Chukchas and all those other nationalities that live in Russia, that they voluntarily joined this peaceful, democratic, beautiful country. They were freaking invaded, conquered, annexed, and repressed. This is how Russia became so big. It's not like they were crazy about vodka, balalaika, and matryoshka. No, guys, it's not like that. They were conquered. They were conquered the way Ukraine is currently being conquered by Russian forces. And those nationalities, they have their identities almost completely removed by now. For example, Russians were saying that Ukrainians are repressing Russian-speaking people in Ukraine. By 2022, there were almost 600 Russian schools in Ukraine. How do you think, how many Ukrainian schools were there in Russia? 0. And the same with other schools. We're talking about other ethnicities, because Russia loves to project, being Nazi themselves on other countries. As I mentioned millions of times already, all the NATO bloc is Nazi, of course, for Russians. They consider other countries, European countries, Nazis and shit like that. So that's my main point. Why do you afraid of collapsing? Are you afraid if ISIS collapses? I think it's something that we all want to see, right? One day, ISIS just to stop existing. Same with Russia, because Russia currently has all the signs of being a big terrorist organization, including things like beheading people, eliminating civilians, genocide, and everything. So we should not be afraid of Russia collapsing. We should try to make this process as fast as possible.
So one of the Russian talking points then is obviously they have a way of just ignoring everything and then finding a new narrative to start off of. So they will say, well, it's not actually about Ukraine's independence, it's about Americans want Russia to collapse. You know what I mean? What do you guys have to say about that when they change the whole argument and make it like, well, they just want us to collapse because Americans believe that?
It's as if Russia doesn't want America to collapse, because all time they exist after the World War II, they did everything they could to destroy American democratic society from within. They all the wars the American soldiers had to fight outside of America, their enemies were to some extent either backed by Russians or enforced by Russians, starting from like Vietnam War, Korean War. It's again and again and again. Russian soldiers had to face, American soldiers had to face Russian tanks, Russian airplanes, Russian weapons, Russian bullets, basically flying at American soldiers. Like American interest in collapse of Russia is absolutely justified because America, like any other country, is fighting against terrorism and they want to survive. They want to protect themselves. They want to protect the democratic society that they spent so much time building. Like democracy is not given for free. You have to fight for that. The reason why European countries, like Western countries, have democracy, freedom of speech, why people are free to choose their future, why they have such a good quality of life comparing to some freaking Khabarovsk. It's not because it was given. It's because your grandparents fought for it. Your grandparents and their grandparents sacrificed their blood, their lives, so you could live free like free people, and that's why Americans and Europeans, they value this. So this is the answer.
One thing, I think you need to understand one simple thing. Russia is really last empire in our world. Real last typical empire, like in 19th century, like for example British Empire that you fought in your independence war, like this. So you must understand that. They want only one thing. When, for example, in 1991, Russians say, okay, and now we will be as a democratic country. We are like you. No, it's a lie. They are really, they have imperialistic mind, so they hate Americans in their souls, because America, it's a way of freedom people, and they are not freedom people. They are slavery in their real in their brains, in their knowing, because they trying to make empire can exist only when he's growing more bigger and bigger, and if empire stops in this growing, it collapses. And now Russia is collapsing. But they want to take in their grave all the countries which was in the in Russian Empire in earlier times. So I think Americans like American a project of American nation. It's a project against empire in its brain. So I think Russia must be collapsed, because China, it's a very awful country. Okay, in their project, but that's not. They are not an empire. That's a national country which trying to build concentrate camp. But Russia, it's empire, and it must be collapsed. Like, for example, collapse of British Empire, German Empire, French Empire. There must not be empires in our world if we were speaking about the democratic world, something like this. So I don't think that you have any things about why Russia must exist in such form like now.
And I just want to add that really this imperialistic mind that Russians have is the only mind they have. This country doesn't have any democratic experience. It has never existed as a democratic society, unfortunately. It happens so. And the only chance to give them this experience to be democratic is to apart this empire apart, is to just to separate all those nations and to give them this, not maybe to give, but they will have a chance to get this experience, to be a democratic societies. Because I see that there are a lot of people in these nationalities, in these countries that, that this empire have this spirit, the spirit of democracy. And there are activists who suffer a lot, and they are in prisons, they are killed. They are killed for their democratic ideas there, that they want to be democratic. So I think that the only chance to give these people this experience is really to destroy this empire.
So being American, unfortunately, I hear a lot of the anti-Ukraine. So I know all of the pro-Ukraine. I'm pro-Ukraine. So I'm gonna pretend like I'm an ignorant American. So I'm asking questions kind of rhetorically. So Americans will say, my taxpayer money, all of it's going to Ukraine. You had mentioned it earlier. You had said, well, at least American soldiers aren't going, but also in America, they're being told that American soldiers are here in Ukraine, which I want to just hear you guys' take on that one by one.
As far as I know, that American soldiers are here according to their own will. So that's
So the ones that are out of the military now. They have their DD-214, like they're not a part of the U.S. military anymore. They have training, but they're no longer like active in the military at all. But they do have the experience from fighting previously.
yes, and I want to thank you. To all Americans, and to say that we are very grateful to those Americans who come here and who work here like volunteers.
Like these guys.
Yes, and please believe that we value every effort. We value every dollar that you invest in our country, because this is the investment in your lifestyle. This is the investment in the world order that you appreciate, that you build, that you actually fight a long time ago. Because your ancestors fight for these values, and we just continue this wave, the wave of democracy, the wave of independence, the wave of freedom. We want to be free just like you. And when Americans come here and they can see what's going on from the inside, I'm sure that they change their mind about Ukraine, about these people who live here, who fight, who are very brave. And I want to say one more thing. You know, this metaphor to boil frog in boiling frog in the water on the low fire, or fire of low extents. You know, that this is a metaphor. And I want to say that we have to end this war as quick as possible, because if fire is weapon, frog is Putin and his regime, and water or milk in which this frog is boiling is Ukrainian people. And we don't have so many Ukrainian people as Russians have. If to compare our potential, this mobilization potential, you know, they have 130 million people, and we have only about 40 million people. Compare. This is, you can't compare this. So we need more weapons right now, because we can't win this war only taking into consideration this mobilization potential. We need to win this war technically. We need to have weapons of, high technologies. And that's what we are actually asking for the Western world, to give us weapons and to give technologies. Your people don't need to shed their blood here. We can do this ourselves, but we can't do this without new technologies and new weapons, because, we don't have so many people. And that's the only problem.
I'll want to say to you with the words of Mitt Romney, the senator of United States of America. He said very good thing. He said, I will say, so we spend about 850 billion a year on defense. We're using about 5% of that to help Ukraine. My goodness, to defend freedom and to decimate the Russian military, a country with 1,500 nuclear weapons aimed at us, to be able to do what with the 5% of your military budget strikes me as an extraordinarily wise investment, and not by any means something we can't afford. I got nothing to add. Please.
Yeah. Also, there was a commentary that Ukraine should get rid of Nazi image. First of all, the Nazi image of Ukraine was built by Russians, 100%. The second thing, all kinds of national minorities in Ukraine, all kinds of religious movements, they thrive. Meanwhile, in Russia, they officially banned the Jewish agency that's still active and thrives in Ukraine. Again, as I said, they have 0 national schools in Russia. They don't support their national minorities at all. you may ask yourself, why the heck do Buryats, for example, even though they speak their language, but they use Russian alphabet? Well, that's the answer. And basically, Ukraine does everything to support national minorities here in Ukraine, while Russia basically represses them and destroys their identity. So who's the Nazi?
Also, we have a bigger Nazi problem in the United States than Ukraine does, and they can openly just walk in the streets in the U.S. and hold flags still. So that's the other thing I'm going to get to is in America we have freedom of speech, and that opens the door to propaganda because, I mean, it's the freedom of speech. How do we combat that as Americans? Because we're getting flooded with equal messages to like we are today from those like Tucker Carlson, from Alex Jones. You know, we have big, and then millions listen to them. Millions of Americans every day listen to people like this. But it's kind of similar to experience of Ukrainians with Russian propaganda in a sense from what we have in the United States now. How do we combat this?
I can say that Russia is the terrorist state, and the only things it produces for export is terrorism and propaganda. Everything you hear from Russian media is propaganda. There is no freedom of speech in Russia. All those journalists can't say a word without, this metodichka censorship and without a propagandistic list of narratives. All they have this from Kremlin. They receive this manuals with narratives, and you can compare their media, and that's what we do when when different media say the same words. You know, presenters in different medias. You can even compare these presenters. You know, they say one and the same words because all they type in their manuals. So even if you listen to Lavrov, for example, their foreign minister, if you listen to their representatives of their state, all they do, they just foist their narratives, propagandistic narratives. They don't give information. They don't give facts. All they give is propaganda narratives and messages that they have to give. And this is the information war. And this is a part of this hybrid war. And you have to understand that Russia wages not only this, war on the territory, but it wages the information war not only against Ukraine, but against the whole world. Because Russia wants to foist its regime and its, mind, its mentality, its way of thinking, its worldview on the whole world. And you can see their values. I can say, and this European Union and, all the organizations, independent organizations that work here in Ukraine, when they investigate the Russia's war crimes, when they work on the deoccupied territories, they see that the only infrastructural object that Russia was able to build on those occupied territories was torture chambers. To touch people and to kill Ukrainians. They kill everything that is Ukrainian, they kill everything that differs from their Russian mentality. They are not loyal to, this freedom of speech and different nationalities. So just choose. When you listen to Russian, just keep in your mind, this is not information, this is propaganda.
That's something that I always tell my audience, because when pro-Russian, let's call them Russists, when Russists in the US or Germany or other countries talk about situation in Ukraine, they refer to like Russian media or Russian bloggers or whatever. Simple question: do you consider Russian media independent and free? So what's even the point of listening to them or referring to them?
Maybe one more, little. I think that the main thing that you need to understand that only thing that Russia can do perfect is to use democracy to fight the democracy. They use it perfect, really. They can, for example. What they do, for example, they begin to lying, and then when you say you're lying, they say, "Oh, shut up! It's a free speech. You're an enemy of free speech. You're an enemy of democracy. And it's a very big problem for Western people to understand that, there are some situations when you must say to these people, shut up your fucking holes. It's not true. It's not a free speech. It's not a democracy. You're lying. You're really lying. And even speaking about the Tucker Carlson, okay, I'm not American, so it's not my business to tell you what media to see. Yeah.
Maybe we do need it.
Okay, it's your country, and you know better what.
We do need a father.
Okay. Sugar Ukrainian daddy. Okay, okay, I'm joking. So I think you must understand one thing. You need to understand one thing. If we're speaking about the man like Tucker Carlson, okay, everybody loves money. Everybody loves money, and Russia give, if I'm not mistaken, something like $3 billion to propaganda in Western world for 1 year. Just imagine it. $3 billion for propaganda. So you can imagine how many money, for example, get from this money Mr. Tucker Carlson or some and other guys that like to say about the Ukrainian Nazis that kill the Jews and kill the Russians. The big part of Ukraine, it's Russia, and Ukrainian Nazis is killing Russian people, and so Russia is only freedom. They give the freedom for these people, yeah. So I think just imagine, for example, imagine that you are your grandfather, 1943, and for example, Japan propaganda telling, okay, American people, you must kill that fuckers from the Washington. They killing your democracy, and only Japan army will give you the freedom. Do you believe it? I think that's something like this is going on here now in Ukraine.
Yeah.
But I don't think that the techniques that Russia use are not new. Like they're the same as Nazi Germany propaganda. They've just been very good at using it in the digital world.
Yeah.
As well. Like they got onto it really quickly to capitalize on social media, influence elections through using advertising abroad. It goes back even further than that. If you think that Putin's plan was to physically buy into businesses around Europe, so he did it in the UK with his oligarchs. They bought up the land, they bought up properties, football clubs, made themselves look cool, and like they're a part of the free world, and look at us investing in your countries. But it was all a bit of a master plan, really, wasn't it? Oh, and by the way, here's some cheap gas, Europe. Buy your gas from us. So I know this show's about America, but the way that he ingrained into Europe, and into the countries of Europe, when the full-scale invasion then started, it made it basically impossible for Europe to put up a strong military response without having to turn around to their countries and go, oh no, you won't have any gas because we haven't actually put any in storage because we bought it cheap off Russia. And I think, so there's two parts to this, right, isn't there? There's one, getting US support to fight a clear evil, which this is again, it's just our generation's evil, is key because the USA has the most amount of guns. Yeah. And what we need right now is loads of guns. After that, Ukraine needs a real strong alignment with Europe and the EU, which it's working hard to do, isn't it? The anti-corruption, the changing of laws, because the closer you can get into the EU, have EU membership, that's better for the economy and for the people of Ukraine, once hopefully we've won.
So before we continue and dive in, you had talked earlier and you had brought up Russia using migrants as like a way to be like distraction. So this is going to be a conspiracy on my end for America, because every time we have something where it's like Americans are together on something, we have a crisis at our border. We have a migrant crisis. Surprise. I know. So when I'm saying this, it's like I'm hearing that when you're talking about issues in the Baltics with it, Russia sending immigrants in. We like literally right now have issues on our southern border with migrants coming in, flooding in. Those that are Votniks or like Rushists, as Starsky will say, are like more. They're not outwardly pro-Russian, but they're anti-Ukraine. So like they're pro-Russian through proxy. They'll use it and be like, well, we have this migrant problem. They're coming in, they're flooding in, they're taking all of our jobs. We can't send any money to Ukraine because we have this immigrant crisis on the border. And like maybe it's just me and my brain, but after hearing that, it's like I'm kind of connecting a little bit of dots, because we have a border crisis like every 4 years, like and since I've been alive, right? And like Trump's like, well, we're going to build the wall and we're going to seal off the United States from the rest of the world, basically. No immigration, like shut it down. And it sounds very, very familiar from hearing what you guys had to say.
It's not like Russians are sending immigrants to the U.S. from the south. It's the narrative that they build in the American society about those immigrants.
And do you think Americans will then use that same type of messaging?
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I want to say, maybe it sounds like a conspiracy for you, but I want to remember one interesting thing. And many American investigators wrote about this, that Russian special team forces have very good, relationship with a big drug organization, and in Mexico also. And I want to make you remember one more interesting thing, that there are many, chances in the world when, maybe you remember, if I'm not mistaken, it was 3 years ago, when in Argentina was captured the diplomacy baggage from the Argentina to Moscow, and there was some, if I'm not mistaken, 3 tons of cocaine. So. And one more thing, Russia making is very, maybe you forgot, my friends, but Russia, it's a former Soviet Union, and they have very good, relationship with all bastards in all Southern America, in Africa, in Asia, and they working on this. So, the main goal of Putin is to make Western, all Western countries to blown up with a very big quantity of crises, crises with immigrants, with drugs, with weapons, in a political. It's a tactic, So you must understand that Russia, they cannot live good in their country, but they will do everything to ruin your life with all chances they will get. All chances they will get.
Yeah, and that's what I was talking about, the hybrid warfare, basically. Both informational warfare, then warfare that includes using different social groups in different countries, different crime organizations, separatist movements, yada yada, because every country has its own specific, and Russians will do everything they can to improve their influence in that country. And if remember, I made a video about the hybrid warfare. It's on my channel, where I, even before those processes started, I said that if you live in Europe, there are 2 options, 2 things that might happen in your country very soon. If you live in a NATO country, you can expect mass protest actions calling to cancel the NATO membership, which we can now see in Slovak Republic. In Slovakia, we can see the same basically in the U.S., because a lot of far rights in the U.S. they call to exit the NATO, and in Czech Republic. In Hungary, there are also movements calling to in Germany, yeah, of course. And the second option, if you don't live in the NATO country, I'm very, very sorry for the things that will happen very soon if Russia wins this war.
Yeah, an interesting fact that where there is an election campaign, for example, Slovakia, or next is Poland. There, our media colleagues observe the wave of Russian propaganda in these countries. And Putin uses famine, uses migrants, he uses propaganda to destroy the societies from the inside. If, for example, you know about this grain crisis and that we have this, discommunication with Poland, Putin tries to use this and to voice the narrative that Ukrainian grain, that Ukrainian agriculture will destroy the European agriculture and the European economy. This is wrong. this is not so. But every crisis that we have here in European countries or wherever in the world, Putin can use against the democracy. And that's what we have to understand as well.
Well, thank you guys so much. We're going to continue, but first we're going to get our daily weather report from Alex. All right, we need the weather report.
Come, Andrew. Well, once again, it's starting sunny, and it's going to continue to be sunny here in Kyiv and the wider Kyiv Oblast. We do need to extend it to other oblasts, but at the moment we're pretty focused on the capital. We do the weather because of the Americans in Fahrenheit, so I've got no idea what I'm talking about. But right now it's 60, which in my temperatures would be burning alive and we're already dead on the floor, so it can't be actually that. But it's 60, it's sunny, it's staying sunny all day until sunset, that it says it's going to be about 6:47 today. Highs of 75 Fahrenheit. For other people that understand different measurements, i.e. Celsius, that is a high of 24 Celsius. So I would say where are we now? We're sort of beginning of October. We're having a second summer here, aren't we, Starsky?
Yeah, so currently we can see that it's kind of sunny, even though in the night it was 12 fucking Celsius.
It got cold. It got
12.
cold, huh?
Yeah.
That's why I'm cold now.
I froze like a freaking penguin.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I didn't even notice. Me and Alex passed out.
I want to add something about weather.
There you go. Yeah.
You know, I live on the 22nd floor.
Yeah.
And I can see Kyiv, from my window. That's the panorama, very, very beautiful panorama. And when I woke up at 5 o'clock today to get here, I saw that there was very foggy, but fog was in layers. You know, we have these high skyscrapers. There was this pure air, then fog, and then air, and that was very beautiful.
So the other thing I wanted to bring up while you were talking about that, in my head, so yesterday on the way home at nighttime, I left the movie theater because I went to see 20 Days in Mariupol, which I will talk about to my stream in a separate discussion. But the metro, that escalator is the scariest escalator I've ever been on in my entire life. Because it's so steep, and it took like 10 minutes to get up the thing. Because oh my goodness, it's like a 45-degree angle damn near, and it's like it is like, and you're holding. I am literally like I'm sweating. I'm sweating holding on to it because it's like my hands like not going as fast as my legs. So I'm like doing this constantly going up it and I'm like leaning forward as far as I can. It is the scariest escalator I've ever been on. And Maria was like, "Oh yeah, just take the escalator," and I'm like, bro, no fucking way.
All the locals are on it like fucking Americans.
They don't care about heights here. Heights are not a fear here in Ukraine. Whereas me, I am deathly afraid of heights. Starsky's like, bro, let's go up to the top of that, like way up there. It's a really cool spot. I'm like, bro, will have a panic attack if I get up there.
Yeah, and we use this underground as a bombing, this like bomb shelter. And when we have here those sirens, we go down there, and there is very safe.
It's too deep because it's built in Soviet times. It's a shelter for the nuclear war. You can hide there, so don't be afraid. It's a cool thing, really.
Yes.
I will conquer my fear at that point. Like, it will be no problem. But normal times, I did a little bit of a video, but like as soon as I got nearly halfway up, I was afraid to hold my phone because like I was starting to get like I was going to fall backwards or something because it is like you're going up at a nearly 45 and it is intense. So just a random sidebar. Alex, let's do some viewer questions, and then I will end with a question after that about American presidents.
Sure, mate. I'll just go through some of the stuff that's come in throughout the day. There's Aussie T and Richard Daniel Jr. have been gifting memberships.
Oh, wow. Thank you,
As
Aussie T.
has Sonky,
Yep.
Bendybot,
Okay.
Aussie T again, and Richard Daniel Jr. There's been like a membership gifting frenzy
Wow.
this morning. And then some people have given money for various reasons here, and I'll go through them because Herfy said some money for breakfast from Australia for you all. There you go. He says hello from Australia and hello everyone in Kyiv. Jean-Marc the Pagan Owl, who's based in Canada. says Canada becomes the biggest country in the world. It is very popular in the news right now for a couple of reasons. iBlue is also gifted $5. Alexis has gifted 10. Someone's gifted 3. Bendybot has gifted $20 for the Slippers for Alex #campaign. Plus a drink for the day. People notice I didn't have shoes on, everyone else does, and that I need slippers.
I didn't have shoes on yesterday.
Hashtag Slippers for Alex has started throughout the show. Krista has said it's so nice to have some ladies on the show, or a lady, and myself, obviously.
Alex was referring to himself too, yeah.
Yeah. And some Richie also donated the money for you all to have breakfast as well. So you're going to have a massive breakfast.
Starsky, are you going to be able to go to breakfast with us?
Yeah.
I will be leaving in like 15 minutes.
So
I have to.
Yeah.
I understand. No need to explain. I get it.
I think just while I look at the questions quickly that have come in, it's important to note, isn't it, Andrew, that we're doing this because Ukraine's at war, and we're also fundraising for a truck,
Yes.
for a unit. So
Yes.
if you haven't donated already, do it.
That is my reason I'm here to begin with. This is like, we started this secondary, right? And now it's become such a thing. But my way into Ukraine was delivering trucks for the soldiers. So if you want to see me back here again, I'm not coming back unless I have vehicles and drones to bring, because I can do this through Zoom or something with Starsky at home and save money and just send it to Ukraine. But I mean, this is a great platform we're building here, and I would like to continue it, but not unless we have trucks and drones that we're going to deliver. So donate to our NAFO campaign. Thanks, Alex.
So question for you three, really, you can each give a view, is people are interested in, like, what was Ukraine like before the full-scale invasion? Was it a united country or not a united country? What was it like to live in?
One by one. Everybody can
Okay. He's captain, so he will speak first.
Okay. Yeah. So Ukraine before the war was awesome, and it still is. I wouldn't say that we were as united as now, because before the war, even though, like before the war, before 2014.
Yeah, we were a democratic country.
Yeah, because the war started in 2014 basically. But before the big scale invasion, we were not as united as now. There were different people with different opinions, even though there was war on the east, where I fought since 2014, late 2014. Of course, there were people, like a lot of pro-Russian people. End of revolution, 2014, February. According to the statistics, according to the polls, there were 3 polls. 78% Ukrainians still considered Russians our friends. It was after the Revolution of Dignity, after the annexation of Crimea had started. 78% Ukrainians still considered Russians our friends. Majority Ukrainians in 2014, I think as much as 68%, they didn't support joining NATO. After the big-scale invasion started, of course, we became even more united, because even people that had absolutely, completely pro-Russian views, they saw what Russians did in Bucha, in Izium. They saw what they did with Mariupol, with Kharkiv. They saw them bombing Odessa, even though those...
Grain.
Yeah, grain, of course. Even though Russian propagandists were saying, look, Ukrainian nationalists burned 40 pro-Russian people in Odessa, but they already did hundreds and hundreds missile strikes on Odessa with Russian missiles, Russian bombs. They killed a lot of Russian-speaking population of Ukraine themselves, basically. Returning to your topic, Ukraine was a developing democratic country, something similar to like South Korea. I would say, more or less, in terms of our will to develop, in terms of, this huge amount of different independent media, which again, I will keep saying this, but this is something that we need. We always need different points of view in Ukraine, because if you blindly follow Putin, well, that makes you, you know, what who Russians are basically a slave. You always have to have your opinion. That's why Ukrainians are strong and democratic. That's why in Ukraine, and basically I think Bogdan will agree with me, all the decisions made by the government and by the president, they come from below, from the population that say, no, we are not agreed with that. We don't like this. And then they react, oh right, then we have to change something. This is the direct democracy. This is how it's supposed to work in a democratic society.
You know, I can make you some turn. It was 3 weeks ago when our parliament don't want to, to open the declarations of our top managers of our country, and then we got the very big, fury in our society about this, and parliament re-elected it, and they must to do what people want. So I think that Ukraine, we got the war like World War II now, and we got the democratic country, for example, like it was in Great Britain and World War II, when, for example, BBC was criticizing the government because it's a democratic country, and we got the situation now. Yeah, we got some problems. It's not. I think it's not very interesting to you. It's our, inner situation.
Internal bubble.
Yeah, but you must understand that we're a really democratic country. We have same values like Americans, like British, like German. We really hate dictators here. I don't even imagine that, for example, president will, like in Russia, he'd say, "Okay, we will do like this," and no any conversations about this. They say, "You're really stupid." And we don't know. We don't want to do this, So we're a really democratic country. You must know this. It's really very useful thing for you.
Yes, and I would like to add that, so the question was if we were united before the full-scale invasion, right? Yes, we were united as a country. Every Ukrainian identified him and herself as a Ukrainian. And after the full-scale invasion, we saw how many people don't want to identify themselves with Russians anymore. And these people, even before the full-scale invasion, didn't want to live in Russia. And even Russians want to turn Ukraine into good Russia. So, that's not a question if we were united. We were united as a nation. And that's what Putin was afraid of. When he saw that he couldn't change our values, our mind, he decided to just annihilate us. So because that was the only way to grab this territory. And we still, we were a democratic society, and we are becoming even more and more democratic. And we are very glad that our Western allies support us. And you know that our President Zelensky met with your President Joseph Biden. And after that conversation, he came back and he received a letter, a very interesting letter, where there were, the list of reforms we have to do now, we have to, fulfill to become a really democratic country. So your money, the money of Americans, won't be stolen here, but they will just work here for our victory and for our democratic society, so they can help us to build democratic institutions. And we Ukrainians are very people who love freedom. And every time we don't agree with our government, we go to Maidan. Maidan, it's a площадь that is a big square, big space before, in our city, Kyiv, where we come and we say, we don't agree. Now we can't go to Maidan because this is wartime. And what we do, we have, this virtual Maidan, right? We create petitions. Yeah, we cry, we shout in our social media. We still have freedom of speech here, and it is restricted, of course, because of the wartime. We can't, for example, have here political life, which is very vivid. But we still have this, and we found this virtual representation of this democracy. So we continue to be united, and I think that maybe today we are the most united country in the world.
Democracies aren't perfect. They're supposed to be reformed, built upon. It's a constant conversation. It's like like the Russian side will take it as like, whoa, that's not the perfect world that they're selling you. You know, our world, our dictatorship, you know what I mean, is better. But also too, like in 2020 in the U.S. for our elections, and I can see this coming up again. We had lots of protests, and I'm gonna just call it Soviet-minded Americans because it's this. I don't know how else to describe them, but they will take it. Well, those protesters are out there demanding that it's their way only, and nobody else has a voice. When it's like protests are a result of democracies when people are upset with what the government's doing. And still entities and Soviet-minded Americans will take that and spin it like similar to like Russians do. Like when there's any protests, and they'll go out there and just crush them. Like they'll just absolutely take them out, arrest everybody that's marching or anything, and try to kill the voice of the people. So when you see things like protesting and you see things like Ukrainians are like right now we're having an independent conversation here in Ukraine. This could not be possible in Russia, like not at all. A Brit, and Ukrainians having a conversation completely independently. It's just not possible in a place like Russia. So that is that. And the final thing out, because I know we have limited time with Starsky, maybe a couple minutes. American election is coming up. We have a presidential election coming up. We know that Biden is pro-Ukraine. He's kind of dragged his feet a lot. So maybe Americans honestly might be looking for a stronger president for Ukraine that will help, in terms of the aid that we're giving, get this thing taken care of. Like we have the means to help Ukraine win this war now, and not like just here you go. All right, 3 months go by. Here you go. Like a little bit. That's basically what it feels like, even as an American. But people are looking for someone like, okay, we have lots of issues in America that we need to handle, but we need to help Ukraine because this is a global issue, and we need it now. So what are you guys' takes on the upcoming American presidential election, and who's running, and who do you guys see as the best American president to be able to help Ukraine? You guys are ready like me already.
Guys, unfortunately, on this note, I have to leave. Okay. Yeah, I still have some of my army business. Yep. So.
All right, buddy. Final thoughts, really quick. Putin.
Yeah, Putin, do fuck off. Don't forget. And as always, it was a pleasure to see you guys and see your beautiful comments.
I just.
We're not done. We're still going. He's just saying goodbye.
Yeah, you're still here.
Oh, you stay.
We can all move over one now. So you want to slide over?
Yeah, okay. I will shut the door.
Yeah. See you, mate. All right. Anyway, so American presidents.
I mean, not that you've got much to choose from here, by the way. You've got an old man that can't remember anything, or a narcissistic mental TV host. So yeah, pick one. Who do you want to lead America? The free world.
It's the most terrifying question for now about these elections. I will try to explain to you why. Because, it's a very big problem that Ukraine now became part of, inner American politics. Yeah. It's not very good. And, our government for some years made a very big mistake when we're trying, for example, to say, okay, we will support Biden, or we will support Hillary Clinton. It's a very bad thing. It's your country, and only you can understand what you need, what your president, what's your political. It's not our business. No, we must not do this. So don't tell you about who I can support. I can say only one thing. I understand that. We don't know many things that what's going on now in Ukraine, and why, for example, some people like Biden or don't like Biden. But I can say the things that we see from Ukraine. I think that Biden, it's a very, some kind of genius person, because, if we compare situation in the world in 2020 when he became the president, and now, I can say that it's my humble opinion that now America is, situation in the world is similar with 1990s when America was a great leader. Why? Because if you see what he's doing, he understands that China is the main problem for USA. And you can see now, for example, like America built a new infrastructure way, for example, from India to Europe, without any China partners, like, for example, Russia, Iran, and something like this. You can see very big American companies, with the help of government, get out from China and get out, for example, to Vietnam. And you can see that, for example, Biden came to Vietnam and they gave a very big declaration with Vietnam, and Vietnam became now the very big friend of the United States of America. And can you imagine it, for example, 10 years ago? Then you can see, for example, like Biden make America again the leader of the NATO. If you see what was in 2020 NATO, it was okay. It's okay. It's a Commonwealth, but what it is about? Okay, NATO. What is about?
Right. What is it for?
And now you can see that America is now the leader of a NATO, like it's now Reagan times or something like this. I don't know what's Biden is making in inner politics. It's your business. But I think that how to explain. I think that the Americans must understand, need to understand one thing. You now live in the American world where rules comes from America, and it's a very comfortable world for you. And if you will lose this world, it will be another world, and very cruel world, where America and Americans will not be so comfortable like this. So I think when you will make in your choice, you must understand what your politics, how they think about the world. But for example, I remember that there was many isolation politics in America. For example, there was a president 1930, for example, before the Roosevelt. They say, what's European problems? That's not our business. We live in our country and fuck all. I think it's not a correct, way for you, because you must understand that America have such a cool position in the world, because you live in the America's America now gives the rules to the world. America don't rules another country, but they giving the rules how it will be. And if, for example, when you're making your choice in your elections, I think it's useful to you to understand if the politic what is speaking to you, if he understand this, or he trying to manipulate and tell you, oh, you don't give too money to them because they're stealing this money from you. It's not true. Really, it's not true. I really, I tell you about what Mitt Romney said. I think it's a very clever Republican politician. He's a very clever man. He answered you to the question why America sometimes must to give their money to another country. It's not, I think it's not means that you giving your money and you will not give them to you. You will give them because you give the rules. If you give the rules, the laws of international affairs, so you will take your money. But if the America will lose this place in the world, I think that you will lose your money also. Something like that, please.
Yes, and as a psychologist, I can say that it's a very grown-up position when you make the rules, when you make the laws for lifestyle, for for democracy, actually, and it's a very childish position when you close in your home, right? When you sit and say, I don't want to know about my neighbors. I'm just here. I'm very comfortable here. But if you don't make the rules for the world, then somebody starts making the rules for you.
China.
And this is China, right? And China is a dictatorship. It's an authorized, personalized dictatorship.
Virtual dictatorship.
Yeah, virtual dictatorship. And it's a very dangerous thing. And I also won't tell you who to vote for, what president is the best. But when I hear, that's your choice for you to choose. But as a Ukrainian person, as a Ukrainian who is, who here inside the war, who can be killed in any moment because I don't know where this Shahed or missile will fly, and maybe our Patriot. won't be able to hit it. So, as a person in this position, when I hear such rhetoric from Trump, for example, that we won't support Ukraine, I'm get terrified. Because if you won't support us, we have no choice to win this war. Just think about this.
Alex, any thoughts?
I like to think that there are enough good people in the world that good will overcome evil in this situation, and that Ukraine will get the support it needs until the Russian enemy is defeated. I like to think that with the elections in the US and in the UK both next year, that our people will vote for decent leaders that make the right choices and not the nutcases on the polling cards. And I believe that is what will happen. I think the problem with this modern digital world is there's good bits like this that people like us can get together and talk to people about subjects instantly. And I think the bad side is there's lots of stories that go out there that pollute people's thoughts. A lot of those stories are completely fake because there's no validation of content that's put out there now. Anyone can put out anything. So it's cool and it's really bad. But I think that the bad stuff gets amplified louder, and that overall the
More
MAGA
polarizing.
nutters are louder than normal people that are decent people that go about their lives. So overall, I think everything will be okay. I just hope that we can get it finished, the war, as quickly as possible with the least amount of more loss of life.
And I just want to add one more thing. Maybe it's no matter who you will choose as a president, but what I believe in your democratic institutions. I believe that you will choose, your democratic institutions will choose the strategy that will support the democracy in the world. And that's what I really believe in.
Our institutions and our democracy in America, I mean, as much as Americans think that or believe that we have failed or America has failed, it's not the case. It's propaganda. Clearly, America means a lot to the rest of the world and who our leader is, and what our institutions are. The representation of them is a blueprint for other countries. Clearly, I mean, like they just mentioned earlier, Zelensky came back from America with like more things to adjust, more reforms, and he's going to bring them to the Ukrainian people and see what the Ukrainian people feel about them. If Ukrainian people don't agree with some things, they will let their voices be heard, and that is what democracy is about. All right, you guys, let's go. Final thoughts for this whole stream. Anything you guys have to say, and then we'll sign out for the day.
Thank you for your support. Thank you for watching us. Please subscribe for our channel, BB Ukraine Analytics. We will communicate with you there, and we really wish to become your Ukrainian insiders. If you trust us, if you believe us, if you want to hear the Ukrainian voice from the inside and to get information not only about the, your country, but also to get known something about Ukraine and who Ukrainians really are. We represent the Ukrainian Native Society and the active part of this Ukrainian society, and on our channel you will get acquainted closer with us, so we invite you to join us. Thank you for watching, and thank you for standing for Ukraine.
Firstly, donate to these cool guys. It's they're doing the very good things. It's true. And maybe, I want to know about Ukraine only one thing, that maybe there is no such an example in 21st century of country that wants to become a Western country like in times of our grandfathers and grandmothers. It's a very cool, example, and I think that's. I think that your grandfather, your grandma, they were very proud of that. Your country was a real democratic leader. When everybody looks at USA, saying, "Okay, I want to be like USA," and now you got the chance to to be like your grandfathers, when you're looking for examples of movies of Clint Eastwood, for example. So, situation is very similar to this. But now Iwo Jima is, okay, it's not for American soldiers, it's for us. But, you can help our country to win our battle of Iwo Jima. So I think it's a cool chance, really. Thank you for watching. And thank you for subscribing and to these guys' channels and to our channel. Thank you very much.
Alex?
I've got nothing more to add other than go and
it's
follow
pretty good, yeah.
BBUA Analytics and actually get your news from Ukraine from Ukrainians. I think that's a pretty
I don't think you can
simple,
find a better
sound
deal.
bit of advice.
Independent Ukrainian media right here. I don't think you can find a better deal. All right. Well, thank you guys again so much for tuning in. Again, like they had mentioned, we are fundraising. Me and Alex Kanash. We both have we have trucks lined up, so we have to get this thing done so Alex can venture and continue his fundraisers, and I can do mine. But we're teamed up on this, so let's get that Good Morning Kyiv truck done, you guys. It's in the description. Subscribe to BBUA Analytics. It is tagged in the title of the stream. It's in the description, so you don't even have to look hard. You click the hyperlink, and it'll take you right to their channel, and then you can hit that subscribe button. And then obviously, Operator Starsky, who was with us, he had to go and go to duty, so obviously subscribe to his channel if you haven't as well. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to another morning of Good Morning Kyiv. I'm Andrew Mercado, Alex Kanash. You guys have been amazing. Slava Ukraine and Vladimir Putin, do fuck off. All right. Good show, guys. Good show. Great. Thank you very much. Oh, yeah, absolutely, bro. Thank you guys for coming. That was amazing.
And you have that very beautiful British accent. I like it very